Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive in. Let's dive in. We're talking about offended and offending, dealing with offense. This is part 3. This is the conclusion of this teaching. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We've got a good 50 minutes to get through it. And so put your seatbelts on and let's kick it in gear. Being offended is a choice. You can choose to take offense or you can choose not to be offended. Once you choose to take on an offense, you take on a burden that you are unable to bear. Working through offenses is not easy, which is why the majority of people never fully overcome offenses. It is easier to avoid the people who caused the offense or not deal with them, and that decision, however, becomes a serious problem when the person causing the offense is part of the body, the fellowship, or a family member. Some people would rather change fellowships, congregations, jobs, relationships, cities, even countries, than to confront and or work through their offenses. Running from an issue or offense don't resolve the offense, but in some cases it adds to it. If because of offense decisions are made which causes more offense or hardship, those too are blamed on the person who caused the offense. What do you do if someone say you offended them, but you don't think you did, or feel strongly that you did not? What happens if you think someone has been offended by you and they say nothing to you, but avoid you, and you know something is wrong? We talked about holding on to offenses, how some people forgive in word only from their lips, but not from their heart. We also talked about operating offended. Some people have been offended to the point to where they operate out of offenses. They're cynical, critical, untrusting, and doubtful, and hardly ever have anything positive to say about anything. What if the person accusing you of offending them was based on something you're passionate about, i.e. you believe in liberalism opposed to others' conservatism, or vice versa, same-sex marriage? And we live now in an environment, especially in this season that we're in, to where it's just so much offense that is going around. There's enough offense going around to where everybody has an opportunity to be offended every day. I was just yesterday driving beside or behind a gentleman, and I don't know why in South Carolina, but people like to drive in the passing lane below the speed limit. That's everywhere? No, that's in North Carolina? But if you're in North Carolina and you see somebody driving below the speed limit in the passing lane, look at the license plate. They may be in North Carolina, but you look at the license plate and it's typically a South Carolina license plate. I mean, I've gotten to the point now to where when I get behind a South Carolina license plate, I'm always looking to those of you who live in South Carolina, especially if you're from up north in places where they get to where they're going, I'm telling you, it's a frustrating ordeal. And I'm driving behind this fella, and I know he know that he's holding me up because it seemed like he's intentional trying to do it. And this guy looked like he's in his 60s, 70s years old. And I've gotten so used to when people finally get over to let me pass to where I know when I see them doing this number, you almost know what's coming next. So I just look straight forward. It's like, you know what, I'm not going to even look over there because I know what you're up to. That's choosing not to be offended. Now, I'm going to tell you, I have followed people who have given me the sign. And that's not wise, especially in the time we live in today. Now, earlier on in the first and the second teaching, we dealt with this word offend, and we identified that the word here is scandalizo. Now, I particularly want to point this out before we get into the rest of this, because you'll see that the word offend, scandalizo, from the word scandalize, you'll see, is to put a stumbling block or impediment in the way upon which another may trip and fall. Metaphor, to offend, to entice to sin, to cause a person to begin to distrust and dissent one whom he ought to trust and obey, to cause to fall away. And then there's to be offended in one, i.e., to see in another what I disapprove of and what hinders me from acknowledging his authority, to cause one to judge unfavorably or unjustly of another. Since one who stumbles or whose foot gets entangled feels annoyed, to cause one displeasure at a thing. And then I bold and underline these next three, to make indignant. The word scandalize, offend, also is defined as to make indignant, to be displeased, indignant. And of course, we see that it's used 28 times, offend, and to make offend 2 times, for a total of 30 times this word is found in the New Testament. And I wanted to lay that out because I want to show a case in the word. Yeshua's disciples were offended in him. Now imagine your disciples becoming offended in you. And we find this in John chapter 6. It's one of those passages you don't hear much about. But when Yeshua knew in himself that his disciples murmured at it, he said unto them, does this offend you? Now what Yeshua was dealing with is saying, listen, that I am he was talking about, except you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. Now, if you don't understand what John is talking about from the very beginning, the word became flesh. When he's talking about eating of his flesh and drinking his blood, he's talking about eating the word. It's like you got to consume me. I am the word that was made flesh. He's not talking about eating his flesh as in cannibalizing, and drinking his blood as in some religious seance or something like that. But he's literally talking about he is the word. You can't receive me without receiving the word, because I am the word made flesh. And there are many today who want to receive Yeshua, receive Jesus, but who reject the word of Jehovah. You understand what I'm saying? They receive Jesus, but reject the word. He says, what and if you shall see, what did he say? He says, doth this offend you? Now, he asked the question, understanding full well by the asking of the question that they were offended at what he said. He says, why are you offended? In other words, why are you offended? Does this offend you? If that offends you, what if you see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before? Now he's saying, listen, I'm not of this earth. I came through a woman, but I'm not of this earth. I came from above. What if you have the opportunity to see me ascend? Now get this. Only a handful of his disciples saw him ascend, 11 to be exact. But he had hundreds. Now that's important. He says, what and if you shall see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before? It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profit nothing. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Your flesh profits nothing from the word. Why? Because the word is spirit. The only thing that profits from the word of Jehovah is your spirit man. Your flesh don't profit from it. Now, the only time your flesh is going to benefit, it's going to be as a benefit or a bonus to you walking in the word by the Spirit. So let's say, for instance, you decide that you're going to start applying the word in your life. And you're going to start especially applying the whole word, like what you put on your body, the fabric that you wear, the food that you eat, whether or not you got things in your home that are not good for you, the things that you eat. I shouldn't even say food, because there are things that people call food that was never intended to be food. Just because you eat something don't mean it's food. So there is no, I don't say there is no such thing as unclean food. Because unclean things should never be called food because it was never designated to be food. It's unclean things. It's abominable things. Things not to be consumed. So when you take the word and you walk in the word, then you start applying this word to your life. Well, yeah, your body is going to benefit from it because you're walking in the truth. You see. So he says, the spirit, it is the spirit that quickens, the flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life, but there are some of you that believe not. For Yeshua knew from the beginning who they were that believed not and who should betray him. And he said, therefore said I unto you, that no man can come unto me except it were given unto him of my Father. From that time, many of his disciples went back. Which are the ones who went back? Those who were offended at him. Those who were offended at him. And they didn't walk with him anymore. You see, anybody who's trying to please everybody is not going to honor anybody. Not even the Almighty. The only way you're going to honor the Almighty is you do what he instructs. You try to please people, and I'm telling you folks, there's been attempts to try to please people, but anybody who desires that you please them may have motives that are not pure. Anyone who is sent by the Almighty is more focused on you pleasing the Almighty because, see, here's what I know. People who are focused on pleasing the Almighty will be pleasing to those who follow the Almighty. If they are not trying to please the Almighty, they're going to take advantage of you. They're going to use you. They're going to misuse you. They're going to abuse you. The only people that I trust in my life are people that I know and have demonstrated that they have a love for the Almighty. It's those people that I can begin to let my guards down around. Because I know if they've got a fear of the Almighty, see, you can't have a fear of the Almighty and mistreat your brethren. You can't do it. If you're mistreating your brethren, you don't understand the Almighty. Because he said, how can you say you love me whom you have not seen, and you treat your brother who you see every day any kind of way? You can't do it. As a matter of fact, you can't even come into my presence and present an offering. Remember last week, he said, in the week before, we started this out. If you're presenting your gift at the altar and there remember your brother has an altar against you, leave your gift at the altar and go and be reconciled to your brother, then come and present your gift, Matthew chapter 5. The Almighty don't want to deal with you if you're not treating your brethren right. So, I have found it to be factual that people who are not fearful of the Almighty is not going to treat me fairly. They're not going to treat me right. They just can't, it's not in them. Listen, folks, don't make a mistake. We were born devil seed. We were born children of the devil. We were born children of darkness. Even in your best days, if you haven't been born again, you're still a child of the devil. And therefore, guess what you're going to do? You're going to hurt people. You're going to mistreat people. You're going to abuse people. You're going to misuse people. And at least if you do, and you are a child of the Almighty, guess what's going to happen? His conviction is going to be right there on you, and you're going to want to get things right. Because if you have a real relationship with him, you know you can't just come up in his presence and stuff ain't right with other people. Because what is he going to do? He's going to tell you, go get stuff right. That's what he do. Why? Because he loves us. He's not going to let you be a hypocrite. So from that time, many of his disciples, who were they? The ones who were offended in him, went back and walked with him no more. Now, Yeshua looked at the 12. He says, are you all going to leave too? You see, and I hope people hear, you know, I shouldn't preface it like this, but let me just put it out there. If people don't want to be a part of what I'm doing because of my commitment and how I'm doing it, and they want to leave, I hate to see them go. But what it means, in order for me to keep them, I'm going to have to compromise who I am. See, when you start trying to compromise who you are to try to hold on to somebody, you're going to lose yourself in the process and become something that is not what the person was looking for anyway, because the person that they were looking for is who you were, but you're not that person anymore. You've changed to try to accommodate them, and now they really don't like you because they don't know who you are anymore. You see the dilemma? Be you. Don't change you for someone else. Are you with me? What should inspire change in you is the Almighty showing you you need to change. And when he begins to show you you need to change, then make the change. But how are you going to please someone who don't even know what they want, and worse yet, don't even know who they are? Because if you don't know him, you don't know you. You can't know you. Your identity is hid in him. And until he reveals who you are, you won't know who you are, which means you are subject to change too. A case in the word. Yeshua's disciples offended at others. There was a situation in the Bible where Yeshua's disciples were offended at two brothers because mama and the boys start conspiring. Matthew 20, 21 through 27. Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons. Now guess who was these two boys? What was their name? John and James. Two of the disciples. They were the sons of Zebedee. They were also called in the Bible the sons of thunder. So the sons of thunder, James and John, Zebedee's boys, and Zebedee's wife, their mama, got together and started trying to figure out where their place should be in the kingdom. So then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him. Now notice the conversation, because if you don't pay attention, you'll miss it. And he said unto her. Now, who is he talking to? Her. Why? Why is he talking to her? Because then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her son. So the sons came with the mother, even though they were the disciples of Yeshua. Get the picture? So somewhere they got around home, they got a break, maybe got homesick, went home, talked to mama, told mama, we done found the one. We done found the one that our papa and our grandpapa, you remember them stories grandpapa used to tell us about the anointed one, the Messiah? We done found him. You have? Now you know mamas always want their children to excel above everybody. That's what inspires those stickers. My son is on the dean's list. My son is an honor student. And then they start discriminating and start getting my child. So it could go genderless. That's all part of that transgender move. See, they saw it coming. You see. You never saw those my daughter stickers, did you? It was always my son and then my child. Anyway. And he said unto her, what do you want? What can I do for you? How can I help you? She said unto him, grant that these, my two sons, may sit the one on your right hand and the other on the left in thy kingdom. They're going to be your right hand and your left hand man. Can you give them that? Now, who's the conversation with? The mother. So I want you to see how this transition, because you'll miss it if you don't. It appears from Yeshua's response that the boys put their mommy up to asking Yeshua the question, which also suggests that mommy had discussed the issue with her sons prior to asking the question. So the boys may have gone home on break, talked to mom. Mom said, come on, boys, let's go talk to Yeshua. Now, come on. Because, I raised y'all for greatness. And now the day has come. And y'all already on the ground floor. I mean, this thing is just getting started. And I want to make sure that when it gets started and it's right, that my boys is right there in the mix. So y'all, come on, let's go talk to this Yeshua guy. Okay, mama. So they done pull Yeshua to the side. The other 10, they over there watching. What's going on? What Jamie and John got their mama here for? Ain't nobody else got their mama here. What's mama talking to him about? I mean, you got to imagine these conversations. Otherwise, you just read right over it. And I'm standing there watching. I'm one of them. Here I am, Thomas. I got a twin. Matthew, Peter. Peter's over there looking, what's up with James and John? Why are they bringing their mama? Maybe they need a healing. Maybe she need a healing. I don't know. But they're in earshot. So they're talking among themselves, and they're in earshot. They must be, because notice this next verse. But Yeshua answered and said, now notice, the mom, he's talking to the mom. When she finished talking, because she's brought her boys and says, let them sit on your right hand and your left hand. So now he directs the conversation to them, because he knows that he didn't put mama up. Maybe they didn't put mama up to it. Maybe mama just took the initiative because they was too, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to, ease up to the head of the pile. So mom says, y'all cut that out. Come on, I'll show you how to do this thing. Let's just go straight at him and tell him, this is what you want. You know how mamas are. Just tell him. Tell him what you want. He's on the main line. Tell him what you want. So he says, y'all don't know what y'all asking. He said, you know not what you ask. He's talking to them. He says, are you able to drink the cup that I shall drink of and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? Now notice what is they say unto him. Who is they? The boys. But when he talking to the mama? But he asked the question to them. And now they're responding, we are able. We are well able. And he said unto them, you shall drink indeed of my cup and be baptized with the baptism that I'm baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left, it's not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared of my Father. Now notice this next verse. When the 10 heard it, they were moved with what? Indignation. Indignation. Now, we looked at this word earlier when we looked at scandaliza to be offended, and part of it was what? Indignant. So even though when you look at the word indignant, you don't see the word offend, but offense leads to indignation. So they were indignant. Now what do you got? You got a conflict. Imagine you being indignant with someone in here. You got a problem. You got a conflict. And Yeshua immediately moves into conflict resolution. Because what did he do? He said, and when the 10 heard it, they were moved with indignation against the two brethren. Verse 26. Verse 24. Wait a minute. Where's verse 25? Okay. We have to find verse 25, Matthew chapter 20. Enemy tried to steal a verse. Boy. See, you tried to blame some on the devil. You just forgot to put it in the PowerPoint. So we're looking at verse 20 or verse 25. Now, it says here in verse number 24, and when the 10 heard it, they were moved with indignation against the two brethren. In verse 25, but Yeshua called them unto him and said, now he knows that there's a problem right now. And what he does is he begins to teach them a lesson on humility. Because what they just did, what they allowed their mom to do, was put them in a position of arrogance and pride. They were trying to exalt themselves. They were trying to sit in the position of authority and rule. They wanted to rule. They wanted to rule with him. To be the right-hand man and to be the left-hand man, you're now dealing with gatekeepers. You're dealing with people who have to go through them to get to him. And Yeshua never intended for there to be mediators between him and the people. You hear me? And this is what Mom was looking at kingdom authority, but she was looking at it from a natural realm. She was looking at the natural realm of authority, not understanding the kingdom, because in the kingdom of Jehovah, guess what? It is self-governed. And it's not self-governed by self as much as it is the Holy Spirit in self that do the governing. It is self-control. It is the Holy Spirit that is giving us the ability to control from within ourselves that which manifests without. It is the Holy Spirit at work within us that is determining how, if we are yielded, how we respond to situations. This is why we can choose not to be offended. I can choose not to allow something to bother me. Just as much as I can allow, because I'm going to tell you something. Here's what I know. I know this as a fact. That if people know how to push your button, guess what? They're going to hang around your button area. And if they can move you and get what they want, get you to do what they want, if they know how to make you angry, if they know how to make you do, if they know how to bribe you or connive you or manipulate you, guess what they're going to do? And I'm going to tell you, nobody can manipulate you like family. Family become experts at manipulation. And the best manipulator in the family is mama. Mama has to work real hard at allowing the Holy Spirit to work within her, because manipulation is part of who she is. I carried you. My body got bent out of shape. I was bruised for your iniquity. The chastisement of your peace is in these stretch marks. By these stripes, Oh, y'all know I'm telling the truth. Mama know how to get you, boy. And she masters it over the years. Because she sees, okay, that didn't work. Oh, that hits home. Okay, let me hone this area. Just massage it just right. And then play the guilt game, the guilt trip. You know I'm telling you the truth. And so this is what mom instilled some pride, a little bit of arrogance, some rule. And the disciples is like, what? You see this? They mama bringing them to be like she trying to put them over us. Oh no, we ain't going for that. You see? And Yeshua's watching this. There's mama. There's her two boys, Zebedee's son, the sons of thunder. They already want to rain fire down. I mean, imagine them being in a position of authority. Imagine them having the nuclear button. Man, next thing you know, it's like they're ready to fire that bomb at a moment's notice. We'll show them. Yeshua had to tell them boys, say, y'all don't know what spirit y'all of. These are the same ones mama came with. Now you can imagine if they had this, where did they get it from? Because Zebedee was at home. Y'all starting to get the picture. Zebedee probably at home reading the Torah. Can't find his glasses. Honey, where's my glasses? Honey, where you at? Honey done grabbed the boy. See, now if you'd have been a real man, I shouldn't have had to take him to Yeshua. These your boys. You don't spend no time with them. You should have been the one. Why I got to wear the pants in the house? Why I got to be the spiritual giant? Come on, boys. Zebedee's still trying to find his glasses so he can read the Torah. And now, I can't read without my glasses. Anyway. Mama know how to take the bull by the horns. She get her done. Does she? Yeah. And so he says, you know that the prince of the Gentiles exercised dominion over them. So we see by his response and by their response that mom is trying to put them as rulers over the rest of the crew. She wants her boys to be the right hand and the left hand. She's positioning her boys to be rulers. Well, who they going to rule over? The others are saying, look at that. She's trying to make them rulers over us. And Yeshua, he's picking up their spirit. He's picking up the boy's spirit. He's picking up mom's spirit. And now he got to cut this thing he's got to cut this thing off. Because you got to understand something, ladies and gentlemen. These 12 disciples came from different places and they had different backgrounds. And they didn't all know one another. When Yeshua brought them all together, so he's bringing these disciples together, and now he's got to try to build a team. He's got to build a team of individuals, and everybody wants to be first. They want to be rulers. It seems that way. And if not everybody, select individuals within the group. And so he pulls them aside. He says, y'all, come here. He called them unto him and said, you know that the Gentiles, that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. Now, remember last week we looked at a place where they were asking who is the greatest in the kingdom. Remember, he pulled the little child in the midst of them? And so these individuals, they had these visions of grandeur. They saw themselves. I mean, if you think about a king, you think about a kingdom. And if you think about a king and a kingdom, and you don't understand the kingdom that Yeshua was representing, you can't help but think about a earthly kingdom. And when you think about an earthly kingdom, now you're looking at governors, you're looking at council, you're looking at the people that give counsel, you're looking at the people who live in the palace, you're looking at the people who are responsible for the people in the land. You're looking at a democracy, an autocracy. You're looking at a governing position, and now you're a high government official. So this is the mindset that's going on here, you see. And in that, you have authority and rule. And Yeshua is saying, listen, in this, you're not going to rule over each other. That's in the world. That's the way the world operates. But in this kingdom, you're not going to rule. You're not going to be a Gentile. The Gentiles do that. People with a Gentile mindset take on that mentality. He says, verse 26, but it shall not be so among you. But whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister. The word diakonos, diaconal, this is the word deacon, servant. Those that will be great among you, let him be your minister. The greatest among us will be the servant. See. And this is the mindset that I've had to try to condition and at times recondition myself over the course of ministry, over the course of the years of ministry. It's a self-abasement, a self-humbling, because it's easy to think higher of yourself than you ought to. And the more people you got following you, because I'm going to tell you, in the religious world, the more people you got following you, the greater you are. See, a pastor of 50 is more known than a pastor of 5. And if you and you know many of you who've lived in this city, you know where the big churches, the big campuses are. The people you see on TV, they're the ones that are well known. The people you see on TV are well known, but there's a whole lot of people like that aren't on TV. But you don't know who they are. And if you ever come into contact with them, if you ever come into their presence, you ever come to know them, you begin to relate them. You say, this person reminds me of that TV minister. It's the same spirit. It's just not the TV minister, but they're mimicking and imitating what they've seen, the TV minister, and they've taken on the personality of that ministry and the personality of that ministry. So they are personalities, you see. And the more people you have following you, the bigger your ministry becomes, the bigger your congregation gets, the more reach you have, then the more responsibility you have, the more authority you have, the more resources you have, and then people start moving out of your way when you show up. The next thing you know, you feel like you need protection. You need armor bearers. You need guards, security, you see. And Yeshua did not allow, although his disciples wanted to try to create that kind of environment in his ministry, he wouldn't let them. And I'm looking at all of that stuff and I'm thinking, we haven't gotten to that point. But what if, or should I say, when? How is that going to affect me? How is that going to affect us? Because I know there was a time when you identified with the church because of the building. There are people who were happy to tell you where their church was. Matter of fact, they described it by the building. You go down that street, you turn left there, and you'll see this big old building. That's our church. Right? The other guy, well, I have to take you because if you blink, you'll miss it. So let me pick you up. That's where we are. You blink, you miss it, you drive right by us. But even when you become that, the work of keeping your head out of the clouds become that much greater. Says, it shall not be among you, and whosoever shall be chief among you, let him be your servant. And then that's the life in humility and, of course, conflict resolution. Verse 25. Yeshua called them unto him and said, there's verse 25. There it is. I guess the devil didn't steal it after all. I just put it in the wrong place. Anyway, verse 28. Verse 27 again, and whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant. Verse 28, even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto. Now this is a universal lesson. It has no expiration. The Son of Man did not come to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give. If we can take on the nature of Yeshua, because that's really what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. It's taking on the nature of Yeshua, which means that we have to abandon our own nature. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you are literally going to allow yourself to go through the born-again process, that's exactly what you start doing. You can't be born again and stay the same. You can't still be the son of your daddy and the daughter of your mother, or the child of your father and your mother. Because what will happen, and I'm always leery of people, that runs in my family. And it's like, which family are you talking about? Because if you're in the body of Messiah claiming things that run in your biological family as if it's okay, and it's not, then it shows me that you say you're part of this family, but you identify with that family. It's like, what family are you really a part of? Because you can't make excuses for your behavior that is part of your biological family, claiming to be a part of my family. Because that's confusing. You're confused. And it's confusing. Because it's like you got one foot in the world and you got the other foot in the kingdom, and you're just divided. And a divided house can't stand. You vacillate. You go back and forth, and that becomes double-minded. And double-minded people can't receive from the Almighty. And this is why they get stagnant. And this is why when problems come, they don't know how to resolve them scripturally. They resort to worldly ways. And the world's way is to deal with things opposite of how the kingdom and the word tells us to deal with it. And so, let's bring this to a conclusion, because this is an appropriate verse to conclude this whole matter with. Understand that if you are offended or you are offending, the ultimate in dealing with that is to be transformed into the image of Messiah. That means you got to abandon your human nature. Now, it's not that you are no longer human, it's that you're abandoning the nature that causes you to operate as a human when in fact you are superhuman. You are a supernatural being. You're not just a natural being, you're a supernatural being. And so when a supernatural person lowers themselves to operating in the natural realm, They deny the supernatural power, and this is where we have the form of godliness but deny the power. The power that is there is to transform us, to move us out of the natural into the supernatural, so we begin to live on a higher level. And that does make you better than the world. The world don't understand you. The world can't comprehend it. Now, just because I'm better than they that is in the world doesn't give me the right to be arrogant and proud, because that belongs to the world. To be better than that which is in the world means that there's a higher, there's a deeper humility. That's what it is. That means that where someone can go off at this point, someone who is walking after the nature of Messiah had the capacity to take a lot more abuse. Now, that's not a pretty way of putting it, but the fact of the matter is that when we look at Yeshua, Yeshua took a lot of abuse. And it's not that we're here to take abuse, but when you are not understood, if you don't understand a thing, you can't help but abuse it. If you don't understand the nature, if you don't understand what something exists for, you'll misuse it. A butter knife is never designed to be used as a screwdriver. But it don't stop people from using butter knives as screwdrivers. I've done it. See? I've used things and broke them, bent forks, and next thing you know, you got a drawer full of junk silverware. Because you're misusing the purpose, you see. Now, if you had the right tool, you don't have to try to make shift. But if you don't understand a thing and its use, you'll abuse it. If a man doesn't understand the purpose of a woman, he will abuse her. If a woman don't understand the purpose of a man, she will abuse him. We abuse things, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't use things for the purpose in which they were made for. So, in conclusion, we have to go to the Proverbs. And it's only one verse. Proverbs 4:23. Please get this. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Keep your heart. Now, the word keep here is the word natsar. And that means to guard, to watch, to watch over, to preserve, to guard from dangers, to keep, observe, guard with fidelity, to guard, keep secret, to be kept close, be blockaded, watchman. And it's interesting that the usage here is preserve, to be a watchman, keep, watch over. Don't just let anything come into your heart. Don't just let anything, and I'm going to tell you something. You have to be very careful. If you're sitting, see, garbage in, garbage out. If people are spewing garbage, our spirit is like a sponge. It will absorb. It'll take on words. It'll take on spirits. And in order to keep your spirit from becoming a sponge, you have to guard. You have to put a guard around you and don't allow anything to just come in. This is what he's saying. It's like the guard of a gate. It's like being on a military installation and you're standing guard, and only thing that gets by you, you're gatekeepers. You guard your home. You guard your ears. You guard your eyes. You guard your spirit. You're very careful about what you allow to come in, because whatever you allow to come in is going to affect what's in you. The word heart, lab, is the inner man. It's the mind. It's the will. It's the understanding. It's the inner part. The soul, the heart. It's the knowledge. It's where you're thinking. All of these things. So when something comes in, if you're thinking about one thing and something comes at you, it automatically shifts your thinking, and next thing you know, you're focused and thinking about that. You have to determine what you're going to think about, because people can come and give you stuff to think about. You're thinking and going along your way, and next thing you know, you encounter somebody, and next thing you know, you're troubled. Your spirit is troubled. They said something, they did something, and now you're consumed by what they said and what they did, and it's just taken you into a totally different place. Your inclination, your resolution, your determination, your conscience, the seat of appetite, seat of emotion and passion. All of these words, it comes from the word heart. Guard, keep, watch over your heart. Why? Your heart, understanding, wisdom, comfortably. It's the part of you that gives you understanding. Now, this word diligence, mishmar, is a place of confinement. He's saying, Proverbs is saying, guard, watch over your mind, your will, your understanding, like a prison guard. That word diligence is like a jail guard. Now, if you don't understand the seriousness of this is how offenses can come in. Because the only way offense can come in is you're not guarded. See, when you go to the prison and you go to the jails, you got to take everything out your pocket. Ain't going to be no surprises in here. They're going to pat you down. You're going to go through a metal detector. You're going to go through, man, I'm going to tell you, when we go to the prison, before you even get in, they got lockers. Take everything out. Put it in the locker. Now you got to go through and you got to sign. You got to hand over your ID. You don't get in there with your ID. You get your ID on your way out. They got your stuff in the locker. They got your ID. Now you got to go through a detector. Then they take you to a room. And you sit there and some folks come and get you. Go through another set of doors. And those sounds those sounds affect you. Now, I'm trying to show you that Paul here, or Proverbs is using this word diligence. He's saying, I want you to imagine what it's like trying to get into a prison, because you are a prison guard. You're going to bring people into an area to where they can be hurt or they can cause pain. You don't want somebody bringing in no drugs. You don't want them bringing in paraphernalia. You don't want to them bringing in knives and nails and guns. You don't want them bringing stuff in. You see. And when you see somebody is coming and they're going to talk to you and they're going to speak to you, you got to take on that prison guard mentality. Because when you're done with that conversation, you could be seriously affected by it. So you got to listen to the words and process them before you let them in, not after the fact. And you have to be quick about it. He says, like a jail guard, like a prison guard, like a guard house, all diligence, because you're a warden. You are a ward. You're watching. You're guarding. That's how you guard yourself. Because if you don't guard, somebody can come in a moment's notice, you're angry. In a moment's notice, you're about ready to go off on the deep. In a moment's notice, you done went from 0 to 60. You've gone from peace to anger, from peace to fear, from peace to crying, from peace to whatever, all because of some words somebody brought to you that you weren't guarded against. This is how offenses get in. Offenses get in because we're not guarded. Issues, totsa, or totsa, outgoing, a border, going in. Out of your heart, ladies and gentlemen, is the source of life. What you let in it is going to affect it. Guess what? Because if you don't guard it, you got to understand that every person that's coming to you is either going to bring life or they're going to bring death. Every person you deal with is either going to bring life or they're going to bring death. Every conversation you engage in. And if it's a meaningless nothing conversation, then it's going to bring nothing and it would be meaningless when it's done. You're saying, brother, you don't have meaningless nothing conversations? Not a lot of them. And when I realize that they're meaningless, and I've already identified the people around me, and I haven't talked to everybody, but it doesn't take long to identify people who have meaningless nothing conversations. Now you can give them a lot of time. It's up to you how much meaningless nothing conversation you want to have. But what he's saying here is these issues is going to be a source of life or an escape from death. Whoever comes to you, ladies and gentlemen, they're going to bring life or death. Every conversation. Because if you know you, like I know me, when I have conversations, I think about them afterwards. I think about them during them. Some things I wonder, okay, what was that all about? I'm always looking for the Almighty to speak. And that's why I'm always open to give people opportunity. But I'm also assessing life. Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. And this life is what makes you feel alive. Green or vegetation flowing fresh, of water, lively, active, of man, reviving, of the springtime, relative, life, abstract. It's all these wonderful words that come, and the usage is live 197 times, life 144 times, beast 76. I mean, basically what he's saying is that you have to understand that out of your heart determines what kind of life you're going to have. And what you let in it is what determines what kind of life you're going to have. Because what's in it is what's going to manifest out of it. That's it. That's the word. So what you want out of life, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be dependent on how well you guard. And if you, by chance, allow offense to come in, you're going to have to get it out. You can't afford to hold on to offense. Why? Because offenses are not from Jehovah. If you're offended by the word, I will say this to you: don't run from it, run to it. Don't be like the disciples who walked away and followed him, because if they're not following Yeshua, then where did they go? Where else was there to go? The disciples said, where are we going? I mean, you got the words of life. To walk away from you is to walk away from life itself. You see. And so when the word of Jehovah comes to us and it challenges us, it's because it's there to It's the word of correction that brings the challenge. And the challenge is to conform to the word of correction that was brought to you. If you have offenses in you, ladies and gentlemen, that's not from the Almighty. That's from the devil. If you're walking around offended, the Almighty didn't do that. It's the enemy that has planted something in you, and as long as he's got that in you, he has access to you. How you going to keep him under your feet when you're carrying him around in your heart? You can't. So you're not gonna transform. You're not gonna become, because you're being stagnated by taking on something, offenses, that you were never designed to carry. Are you with me?
For more information, visit www.arthurbaileyministries.com or call 888-899-1479. House of Israel International Services is made possible through financial contributions from brothers and sisters like you. Thank you.